If you've got a Disney World trip coming up in the next few months, there are some big, brand new updates and changes you need to be aware of. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Things are always changing at Disney World. That's part of what makes planning for your big trips so hard. But recently, there have been a few big changes to FastPass, how you get in line for rides, what time you need to arrive at the park, how you'll get there. If you're planning on visiting Disney World soon, this video is definitely for you because these new updates will affect your vacation. Let's get started. First up, those FastPass tier changes in Hollywood Studios. Disney's Hollywood Studios is changing those things up big time, you guys. You can now get a FastPass for Millennium Falcon. FastPass is finally available as of February 19th, and even though this is one of our favorite queues at Disney World, it's awesome to have an option besides single rider if you don't want to wait in the standby line. With Millennium Falcon joining the FastPass system, the tier categories in Hollywood Studios have gotten a bit of a shakeup as well, and we're kind of happy about it actually. The rides and attractions that offer FastPass in Hollywood Studios are divided into two tiers, with the most popular and in-demand rides in Tier 1. You can only choose one option from Tier 1 and two from Tier 2 in advance of your trip, starting at 60 days out for Disney World hotel guests and 30 days out for all other ticket holders. In August 2019, coinciding with that opening of Galaxy's Edge in Disney World, Hollywood Studios Tier 1 FastPass changed to include nearly every ride. That means Slinky Dog Dash, Toy Story Mania, Alien Swirling Saucers, Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, they all ended up in Tier 1, and you could only choose one of them ahead of time, which made it pretty hard to plan out your time in Hollywood Studios or even attempt to ride everything in a single day, let alone a single vacation. Now, the only rides in Tier 1 are Millennium Falcon and Slinky Dog Dash, so if we're being honest, our money is still on snagging that Slinky Dog FastPass, unless you plan on riding Millennium Falcon early in the day when its wait times are often longer than Slinky Dog. Slinky Dog Dash has pretty consistently long waits from park open to park close, although the line does get a bit shorter as the day goes on. You can expect to wait at least an hour in line unless you hit it just before park close. Millennium Falcon, on the other hand, is typically its most busy first thing in the morning, with wait times dropping once the afternoon hits, and by evening you can expect wait times to be under an hour, unless maybe you're visiting during spring break or on Christmas Day. Once you pick between these two rides, you can pair it with two picks from Tier 2, like Toy Story Mania, Tower of Terror, or Rock and Roller Coaster, which means you have a lot better chance of riding everything in the park in one day, if you've secured a boarding pass for Rise of the Resistance, that is. One more thing to mention, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is opening very soon in Hollywood Studios, March 4th, and we will likely see another change to the FastPass landscape in the park, so we will keep you updated with the latest news on that front. Now, speaking of Rise of the Resistance, let's talk about those boarding groups. Rise of the Resistance is the ride of the moment. It's the newest, it's the most immersive, it's just incredible. If you only ride one thing in Disney World, make it this. Now, you'll need to plan ahead and be ready to get up early if you want to ride, because there is no standby line at the moment. Disney hasn't given any indication on when they'll start using a standard line for this one or fast passes, but we can imagine it's still going to be several months because those boarding passes are still selling out real quickly. So how do you ride? You'll need a boarding pass, which is in essence a same-day fast pass without a specific return time. First up, you want to make sure you have the My Disney Experience app set up along with all of your traveling party and their tickets linked to the account. Next, arrive at Hollywood Studios early. We recommend arriving at least 30 minutes before the park opens. Give yourself some extra time if you're taking Disney transportation. Make sure you have time to get through security and the tap styles. You need to be in the park before it opens in order to grab a boarding pass as soon as that clock clicks over to opening time. Boarding passes will become available at the official park opening time, and there's a little announcement about 30 seconds before the app updates and boarding groups open. It's super easy to navigate the app. Rise of the Resistance is the first thing you'll see. Just click on Find Out More, then Join Boarding Group as soon as the button becomes clickable. You may need to refresh the app, FYI. You'll add everyone in your group and join a boarding group. You'll receive a number for your boarding group, and you can keep track of your status in the same place you join a group in the app. These go super fast though, so be ready. Everyone in the park has an equal shot, whether you showed up at 5 a.m. or 5 minutes before the park opened. The most important thing is that you and your entire group are in the park and ready with the app. If you have any troubles, like you missed adding one person to your party, there are guest relations team members posted around the park to help with boarding passes. They can also sign you up for a boarding pass, but doing it on your phone is much faster than waiting in line. You won't receive a specific return time, but leave those push notifications on. You'll get a message when it's your turn to return to the ride, and you'll usually have a 1 to 2 hour window to get back to the ride, which means you can leave the park, but make sure you have enough time to get back. They typically call about 10 to 12 groups per hour, so you can estimate when you may be called back, though if the ride breaks down, it may take longer. Once you return to the line, wait times vary, but plan on 30 minutes to an hour and a half to get through that queue. If you show up after park opening, you may end up in a backup boarding group, which means you may not get to ride that day. But keep an eye on the app to keep tabs on what number boarding group they're up to. If things run smoothly all day, remember the ride has 4 separate parts they need to keep running. There's a good chance those backup groups will get to ride. There are a lot of details, but if you show up on time with the My Disney Experience app ready to go and everybody linked up, you should be able to ride. Next brand new update that's going to affect your trip, those park hours. One thing you gotta check leading up to your trip is park hours, particularly for Hollywood Studios. You know just how important it is to be at Hollywood Studios before it opens, but keep in mind that the park's hours have been changing nearly every week since the beginning of the year. So you've got to stay on top of what time the official opening is so you don't show up an hour late and miss that boarding pass opportunity. Nearly all of the 9 a.m. opening days have switched over to 7 a.m. openings as of now for the month of February. So far, dates in March have only seen extended nighttime hours, but this could update at any time, so keep checking the Disney World calendar closer to your trip. It's also worth noting that Hollywood Studios doesn't have any morning extra magic hours. Resort guests aren't getting a jump on boarding passes or rope drop lines. There are, however, several nighttime extra magic hours, with the park staying open until 10 or 10:30 for Disney hotel guests. Use that time to ride Slinky Dog and Millennium Falcon. You'll want to keep an eye on other park hours as well. With spring break coming up and some long weekends on the horizon, park hours can shift up until the last minute, particularly on super crowded days. So if you're visiting on those super crowded days, you'll definitely want to take advantage of any extra time in the parks. The next brand new update in Disney World that might affect your trip are the reduced bus services. This one isn't going to affect everybody, but if you're staying at a Skyliner resort, which are Art of Animation, Pop Century, Caribbean Beach, or Riviera, you're definitely going to want to be aware of this one. All 4 of the Skyliner resorts are seeing significantly reduced bus service to and from Hollywood Studios and Epcot, as the Skyliner is the preferred method to get to those 2 parks. Now, the Skyliner is definitely faster. Rides are between 3 to 15 minutes, and overall, we're huge fans of the new transportation system. But maybe it's just not your thing, or you're afraid of heights, or you'd just rather take the bus. You're going to need to plan ahead and be flexible. Buses to Hollywood Studios and Epcot from the Skyliner Resort are only running about once an hour, and those handy bus times signs at the bus stops aren't showing when the next one will arrive, so you're going to need to budget a lot of time for transportation if you're taking the bus. Alternatively, you could call a Lyft or minivan if you don't mind incurring an extra cost. Keep in mind that the Skyliner can accommodate ECVs, scooters, wheelchairs, and strollers, and there's a separate line for those who need extra time boarding. So unless you're really not into the idea of flying to the parks, we recommend taking the Skyliner. Another fun, brand new update in Disney World that's going to affect your trip is the guest experience team. If you need help with your dining reservations or fast passes, or maybe you just need directions or your My Disney Experience app is on the fritz, it happens. There's just some times when you could use a little extra help. Find someone from the guest experience team. Basically, this is a group of cast members who are dedicated to helping you plan your day in the park, and they won't have the same long lines as guest relations does. If you need help, you can recognize them by their blue shirts with the castle logo. Guest experience team members can help guests with a variety of information and recommendations. They're versed in My Disney Experience, wait times, lost and found, and more. They'll be able to help with same-day dining reservations and basically answer any questions you might have. They have multiple kiosks in all 4 parks, so they're easy to find when you need them. We've also got a few new price increases that may affect your trip, so if you're a fan of character meals, get ready for some bad news. Disney's just raised the pricing at character meals all over the resort. 1900 Park Fare, Garden Grill, Chef Mickey's, Storybook Dining at Artist Point, Akershus, a whole bunch of character meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner have all gotten a price hike in the past week. While adult prices have only been increased by about $1, we've seen kids' pricing go up by $3 or $4 across the board. Considering you could be traveling with 2, 3, 4, or even more kiddos, this small price increase could majorly impact your bottom line, especially if you do multiple character meals. So if you're on the Disney dining plan, you're mostly immune to this price increase, but remember, you do still need to pay gratuity. Though if you're paying out of pocket, get ready to shell out a few extra bucks to dine with Mickey and his friends. And we also have more after-hours events that are reducing normal park hours. This is important if you're planning to go to Magic Kingdom especially. We're big fans of after-hours events around here at DFB headquarters. Super low crowds, endless Mickey bars, practically no waits to get on big-ticket rides like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Flight of Passage. But we totally get it. These hard-ticketed, extra-cost events aren't for everyone and aren't for every trip, though they definitely are popular because Disney keeps adding more and more of them. This is great news if you are attending an after-hours event. Even more events means crowds will be dispersed among the different nights. But if you aren't attending the after-hours event, you gotta leave the park once it starts. And with more nights being added on, you're losing precious park time. Each park will typically only have 1 or 2 after-hours events per week, but we highly recommend keeping an eye on the park calendar leading up to your trip. Often after-hours events will only be announced a few months out, so if you planned your Magic Kingdom day 6 months in advance, you might get a shock when you show up and find the park is actually closing a few hours earlier than you thought it might. So we do recommend, if you're doing a Magic Kingdom day without an after hours event tacked on, then go ahead and look at those park hours and make sure the day you're going there's no after hours event and you can stay in the park much later. Another update in Disney World that's going to affect your trip is that confusing construction at Epcot. If you've spent any time in Epcot recently or seen any of our recent videos talking about all the new stuff coming this year and next, you might have an idea of the crazy amount of construction walls and construction in general that's happening in that park right now. Every week it seems like more and more walls are going up, and practically the whole front of the park is walled off at the moment, making it kind of confusing to get around. It reminds me of back when Disney Springs was under construction, and it felt like a maze. You were just like trying to figure out which direction you were supposed to go to get from here to there, and it really was very maze-like. You kind of felt like a rat. Now, to make matters worse, characters, food, and merchandise shops are moving around too. You definitely want to grab a park map and times guide to stay up to date on where to find characters nowadays. Mickey has moved to the Imagination Pavilion by the Pixar Short Films Fest. Minnie has moved to the World Showcase Gazebo, and Joy has moved over to Imageworks. Sadly, Baymax and Sadness are gone altogether at the moment. Mouse Gear, the big merchandise shop, has also moved to a temporary location just around the corner from its old location, and you'll soon have some new spots to grab burgers and chicken nuggets once Electric Umbrella closes. Head to the Epcot Experience or Taste Track for your theme park staples at that point. Luckily, 2 of these guest experience team booths are located right in the middle of Future World, the epicenter of construction, so if you need directions or information, they are close at hand. And the last update in Disney World that we want to highlight that is probably going to affect your trip, or at least it could, is that Walt Disney World Railroad is still closed. Epcot isn't the only park with construction. Magic Kingdom has its fair share of walls and rides closed. One ride that's been closed for many months now with little sign of reopening soon is the Walt Disney World Railroad. The train has been parked due to the Tron coaster construction taking over part of the track. You can still see the train though, it's currently parked in Fantasyland. But this closure doesn't just mean you'll miss out on a classic attraction. It also means you're going to have to walk everywhere in the Magic Kingdom. When the train's running, it makes stops on Main Street, Frontierland, and Storybook Circus in Fantasyland. And if you found yourself on one side of the park, you could take a leisurely ride over to Splash Mountain or Dumbo rather than making the trek on foot. With the Tron coaster not opening until 2021 and no official reopening date in sight for the railroad, plan on hoofing it for now. So there are a bunch of brand new updates in Disney World that will probably affect your trip in one way or another. Everybody's going to be affected by at least one thing on this list on their upcoming Disney World vacations. So keep an eye on Disney Food Blog, watch our latest news updates here on DFB Guide, sign up for our newsletter. You know we're going to give you all the updates, all the details, everything that's happening around Walt Disney World so that you can be prepared and ready to go when your trip comes up this year. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. This is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.